More Brady, and the reason I have both last names is that I have 2 degrees under each different name, and you get lost. There's also last night I actually had a student tell me about this rate your professor thing, and I went in and looked up Michelle Brady. There are over 60 of us in the United States. And there are 2 other Michelle Moores just in Lake County. So ironically, I use both last names so I don't get lost professionally, but I only go by Brady if you're just talking to me. That way you don't get confused by both of them. So you have a little outline too of what I'm going to cover, because normally when I do a presentation about speaking skills, I get 2 to 3 hours in a lecture format. And I had to condense this down to 20 minutes. What I could tell you something useful in 20 minutes. So when I was here 2 weeks ago and I heard some of you presenting, I heard a couple things that I would love to have given you advice on, but someone had told me it's kind of like a dentist who sees somebody with gingivitis. You don't walk up and say, you know you have gingivitis. Because it's out of context, it's rude, it's not right. So I want to tell you in a format that's not personal, that's everyone, so that maybe you can gain some things from what I have to say without me having to tell you personally. Does that make sense? So that's what I want to do. Well, when I teach students in public speaking for the very first time, what are the 2 things they have to do right up front as fast as possible? That's what are the first 2 things that I'm going to cover with you. The 2 most important things to do right up front. I think one of the best things you guys do here as a group is your 30-second commercial, because those 30-second commercials are the 2 things that I tell students to do right up front. And they're called do a credibility statement and make an audience interest statement. So what's a credibility statement? And that is the very first thing we want to do up front, is establish our credibility. And what it means is that right up front you tell people who you are and why you should be someone they listen to. Who are you? And very quickly, you want to be able to, in the first 30 seconds, say something about you. And you guys can even do it quicker. You can do it in 20 seconds or 10 seconds. And that's what you're learning to do in those 30-second commercials. Right up front, tell them who you are. So if I were to do that, I would say something really quickly like this. I have a couple degrees. One of them is from Cleveland State in communications, and one of them is in counseling. And that kind of changed my career field, too, to get that degree. And I've been teaching college for 28 years. I can't believe I'm that old at this point. But I am. And I also, I've taught at 14 different campuses, and I've been speaking for a living for my entire life. So there's my qualifications, less than 10 seconds. That's something that you want to learn how to do. Be able to quickly say who you are and why listen to you, so that right up front they're impressed. Like, wow, this is an interesting person. Does that make sense to all of you? Saying something fast and quick. The next thing that's really important is to do what's called an audience interest statement. And an audience interest statement is to tell somebody immediately and right up front that listening to you is going to benefit them, that there's something in it for them. Everybody wants to know that. Sometimes, though, people go on and on and on about themselves before the other person knows there's a value in it for them. Does that make sense? You want to quickly tell somebody that they have something they're going to gain. And so an audience interest statement for me would be something along this line, that you'll gain some knowledge, potentially, a way to improve your own skills. You'll have a little fun, because we'll laugh. You also get some candy, which I threw into your package. Maybe improve your skills. And if you can improve your skills at presenting yourself, you can possibly increase your opportunities to earn money, which is what most of us are wanting to be able to gain wealth. And so hopefully presenting yourself is really the key to getting started. And so making sure that you can improve yourself. What's in it for them is something you want to come up with in your 30-second commercial. Why listen to me? Really quick, because once you do, now they're committed to listening to you. They want to get that thing that you told them about. All right. Now I'm going to move into public speaking skills. What are the major things that need to be present in your public speaking skills in order to improve yourself? And so the very first thing that we want to talk about is this word called extemporaneous. How many of you have heard that word before? I would assume that some of you. Do you know the definition? No. Okay, do you know a definition for it, sir?
The definition, Wayne?
Any thought about what it was?
Right now.
Right now, and live, off the cuff. Okay, it actually is similar to that. But it is that it sounds that way, but it isn't. Extemporaneous, bottom line, means that it's natural and conversational. Just like I'm talking to you right now, I want to sound like I'm just having a chat with you. I want to sound natural. I want to sound like it's not a speech. I'm not stuck to reading my words to you. We are just talking, naturally. If I fail to do that, and I sound speechy or can, or in any way reading to an adult audience, you'll immediately turn people off. So a key to being a good professional speaker is to sound like it's just a chat. The thing is, it's absolutely not. Every single thing was pre-planned, pre-thought through. Actually, you know exactly what words you want to select. And you've practiced those words enough that they now are comfortable to you and natural. Does that make sense? So literally getting to a conversational tone that does all these things. And one of the real keys to it is smooth. If in any way you sound like you're stumbling over your own words, that lowers the confidence that you know what you're talking about. So you want to practice. If we had time, I would teach you how to practice, but one of the key tips I can tell you is 2 times a day, but at separate times. No more than that, because then you can over-practice, and then you can actually cause yourself more mistakes. But about 2 times a day for a whole week prior to the presentation is when you practice. The next mistake that people make is verbal correctness. Now this one is something that's universal, and there isn't anyone who couldn't improve in this area. I actually occasionally catch myself making these mistakes. Anybody want to guess what the 2 number 1 most common verbal mistakes are? Right there, Andy.
Saying you're not sure, or you're speaking, you like say something about yourself, like I'm not sure if this is correct, or something to the effect of.
It actually is to be negative about what you're saying, and that isn't it. But
Okay.
that's not verbal correctness, but it's a good one.
The power of the pause, because people go or transition
That is it.
words.
The first one, number 1, is called filler language. Filler language is and, you know, like, and you don't say anything, you're saying nonsense, okay? And what it was, they call it filler language, and that it's filling what should be silence. But when you're the speaker, it's uncomfortable for people to be silent, so they try to fill it with something nonsense-wise. Getting that completely out of your language, so there is none. If you hear me say it at all, I'd like to know. I have none.
Can I tell a quick funny
Sure.
5-second story?
Maybe if it's
I,
quick, because you
I
might take
gave
my
a,
time.
I gave a best man speech at my brother's wedding. I was like 20 years old, and they counted the ums. I said it like 256 times on the stage. Seriously.
And that's all they could do was
Yeah,
call the
yeah.
That sounds bad. All right. I actually hear them too, and it's very difficult to listen to someone with a lot of filler language. But anyone with it, a lot of it, can make your intelligence sound lower. All right, so that's one thing. What's another one? Does anybody think they can guess the second one? This one may be harder to guess. All right, let me tell you. Articulation. Articulation is saying every sound of a word properly. It's not pronunciation, which is how you say the word. A lot of people mix up enunciation, which is mumbling, pronunciation, which is saying the sounds like onion or onion, which are both correct depending on where you live. All right, and saying articulation properly. Articulation mistakes, the biggest one are dropping INGs. Going, doing, saying something. That's the biggest. The others are taking words and not saying the whole sound right. Some of my biggest pet peeves are oh hey instead of okay. The K is harder to hit, so people don't do it. They stop with the oh hey. Saying yeah instead of yes, which is less correct. Something instead of something, everything instead of everything. There's ways of saying things poorly. Unfortunately, this is the biggest mistake that is being made in our whole general population. I mean, listen to athletes and people announcing. They sound horrible. They sound kind of like they're idiots, the way they talk, going, doing, saying something like, this was a really good game, and it's all messed up. They're not speaking with articulate presentation. If you want to sound more intelligent, I don't want to offend anybody with this, but this is the one thing to fix. Because studies have shown that people with articulate presentation sound educated. That's it, simple as that. No filler language in articulate presentation, according to studies, raises your presentation of yourself to sound like you are educated. If you listen to young people and someone says, oh, that's a really mature young person, usually it's because they've been corrected on their articulation and their filler language, and they have none, so they sound like a mature young person. In reality, all they're doing is missing these 2 things. Super important to fix. The go and do and say and something happenings are real negative to your professionalism. So unfortunately, let me tell you how to fix it. It is not easy, because you can't fix it when it's your turn in the podium. That's too late. You have to fix it before it gets to the podium. Because what they say happens is that you have what's called automatic language. Your automatic language is language you don't think about, and it's too late to think about it on the day of the speech. You haven't developed the skill yet. It has to be in place. An example of automated language is you answer the phone, and you're not thinking. If you say yeah, then that's awful poor. You know, it's not at all acceptable. But if you answer the phone and say, "Good afternoon, this is Michelle, how may I help you?" and that's the way I answer the phone all the time, then when I'm automatically reaching for it and not thinking, that's what I'm going to say. Even when I'm at home, I answer the phone that way. And my mom will say, "What do you think, you're at work?" That's okay, I'd rather that than the mistake, and my boss is on the other end. Make sense? You guys want to speak correctly. So the problem with public speaking is that you must fix your problems every day. Every day, every day. So if I catch myself saying "yeah," and that's one I pick up once in a while, I immediately fix it and say "yes" right then. Now the person may think I'm a little strange, that I'm fixing my word. Or if I hear myself dropping an ing, happening, I fix it right then and there. Another thing that you can do is take the words or problems that you're not saying properly and actually put them on a sheet and practice saying them right and hit them saying them right, and then you are actually going to start replacing it with the right way of saying it. And then the next thing that you can do is also have someone help you. You can actually have people help you pick up not doing these things. Let's say you have a problem with ums. Your whole group, actually Toastmasters, I have my Toastmasters pin on. I used to be not only a CTM, but I'm a DTM. I used to teach this to the Toastmasters groups. And we used to have a little bell at the group. And if anybody didn't the bell rang, and you had to put a quarter in. And at the end of the year, we saw how much money we had to buy pizza. It was like a lot of fun. Sometimes we had a lot of money happy way through the year because people had so many mistakes. But you can have a friend help you, like they raise their eyebrows whenever you have an and like, or an ing drop, or they could raise a hand or give you a sign. Plus, if you start to listen to other people, you will hear it, and you'll hear how bad it sounds, and it will help you fix yours. But I hear mine. If I don't hear it, that's a problem. I want to know if I'm doing them, because if I can hear them, then I'm not going to do them. So it's a problem to fix for just about everybody. It's almost universal. All right, the next one are voice mistakes. Now, this was another one that I saw when I was here that I really feel compelled to tell you about. And that is, nobody was doing cadence, but I want to hit on it because it happens when people over-practice their presentation, but projection is key. This is projection if I was just talking to you one-on-one. That's too low for the room. So if I was sitting next to you, we were just talking like this. When I speak, we turn on the projection for the room, and that is a little louder in our own ears. It actually sounds too loud. And if the room were a little bigger or there's a little bit too much noise, I have to pick up the projection. Normally, I'm speaking to audiences of 600 or 700 at the Red Cross, and I have to come up to this level, even with a microphone. The problem is it has to be sustained the whole time. Because if I drop it, that's mumbling in public speaking. That's enunciation poor in public